Hello everyone, Happy New Year. Welcome to 2024. This is the first video I'm shooting in 2024, so that's exciting. Let's talk about all the books that I loved. I mean, not all the books I loved because I loved a lot of books this year. I mean, in 2023, but all the books, no, my favorite book that I read each month. So I made a very simple bullet journal type thing for it. So I've got monthly faves and then what I loved each month. So let's get started. These annotations are kind of insane. They look so pretty though. Okay, so in January I read 11 books in total and 3,500 something pages. And my favorite out of all of them was the first book that I read that month, which was Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. Yeah. So I literally have been obsessed with the Shadowhunter series since 2012, 2013, I think. And back then I'd read, the Clockwork series. It's been one of my all-time favorites for a long time. There was this time period of 3 years during college where I read maybe one book in all of those 3 years. So I couldn't keep up with this series, this world. So I hadn't read, Lady Midnight and all of those books. So 2022, I ended up rereading the Clockwork series, and then I ended up reading the entire, what's it called? The Dark Artifices series. And then finally in January I started this because Chain of Thorns, the third book in this series, was coming out at the end of January. So this was the first book of January, first book of 2023, and also my favorite book of January. I loved it. Out of all, these three series in the Shadowhunter series, my favorite is still Clockwork, because nothing can beat that for me. Nothing can beat that for me. But this is definitely the second series out of all of those that I love the most. I don't even know what to say. If you know the characters in this book, if you know who they are in relation to the Shadowhunter world and the other book series, you know why this is. Yeah, but also just all the tropes in it, all the angst, all the yearning, it was just so good. I need to reread this again. Anyways, my favorite book in January 2023 was Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. Moving on, in February I ended up reading 14 books and about 5,400 something pages. So my favorite book in February out of all those 14 books was The Plus One by Maisie Eddings. This was a book that I got on NetGalley. It hadn't released yet, I think. And the thing is, this is the third book in the series. The first is A Brush with Love and the second is Lizzie Blake's Best Mistake, and this was the third one, The Plus One. But I hadn't read the other two and I just jumped into this one because the premise sounded so good. And yeah, new favorite author, new author that I'm gonna read everything by. It was so good and made me tear up a lot, and it was so good. As soon as I finished The Plus One, I ended up getting A Brush with Love and Lizzie Blake's Best Mistake right away and reading them because it was so good. I knew I needed to read everything by this author. So I still need to catch up and read Tilly in Technicolor and anything else that I have not read yet. But yeah, this was my favorite in this series too, which is why I picked it. But also just the way, I don't know, the tropes in it were great. Brother's best friend talking about mental health and mental issues, and the fact that he's a doctor, and I don't know, just I think personally there were so many things about it that just made me love it a lot. I could personally relate to a lot of it. So yeah, fantastic. If you are looking for romance authors that you need to be reading, Maisie Eddings, please go read her work. Yeah, it's not, I don't even know how to describe it. It's not just like it's about romance. Like, yes, there's romance, there's a brother's best friend, and like all of that, and like there's a wedding going on and things like that. But like, it's just, there's just so much more depth to it, and like so many things that are talked about, and like, I don't know. It's just so well done. Obviously, check trigger warnings because there is a lot of sensitive topics in it, but highly recommend. So for March, I ended up reading 12 books, and my favorite of them was another romance called Team Players by Deanna Gray. This, like, I don't know how I found it. Like, I think I saw some sort of reel where like they like showed like a snippet of like what's happening in the book, or like there was like a quote or something, and like I saw it and I was like, yep, this is my next read. I got it on Kindle. I read it in a day, and like, wow, like so freaking good. Like, and again, this was the second book in a series, and like I hadn't read the first one, but I still just was like, whatever, this one sounds really good and I need to read it right now. So I read it, and as soon as I finished it, I ended up reading the second one, no, the first book in the series, and loved that too. But like this one was so good. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, it's a college romance. There's, I think from what I remember, the guy was, the captain of the male hockey team, and then the girl was the female hockey team's captain, something, and then there's rivalry, and like, it's just so good. Like, yeah, anyways, like, go read it. Like, it's so good. And I don't know, just another author that definitely I will be reading more of. I know they just released, I think, a sapphic romance, so or like it's coming out soon, so I'm really excited for that. And yeah, like, so good. I don't remember much about it, obviously, but what I remember is how I felt while reading it, and that was amazing. So if you haven't heard of it or haven't checked it out, go check it out now. Team Players by Diana Gray. In April, I ended up reading 10 books, and my favorite of them was Kaikeyi by Vaishnavi Patel. I did upload, I think, a reading vlog of me reading it, so go check that out if you want like more details. But Kaikeyi is basically the stepmom of Ram, who is a Hindu god in the Hindu epics Ramayana. And so this book is basically about her life and like the things that led up to what the sequence of stories that happened in Ramayana. And so we get her perspective, her life before she got married, and like when she did get married, and like, when Ram was born, and like all these different, things. And like it has like a fantasy aspect too, and there's like magic, and like it's just so well written and so well done. And like, I don't know, I felt like I was living it. Like, it was so well done. Like, highly recommend if you're into mythology books, or like Indian mythology, or like any, if you like mythology books, you will love this. So I highly recommend it. And yeah, I am so well done. I'm so excited. I know there's another book coming out by the author, I think this year, so I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, okay, wow. In May, I read 21 books. I don't know how I did that. I think a lot of them were like Kindle books, which I just read at night, and then also like a lot of series. And one of the series ended up being my favorite series. Like, I literally didn't even pick one book. I just wrote down the series name for my favorite book of May, and that was The Raven Boys, The Raven Cycle by Maggie Seawater. Like, I don't even, literally all the books are like this, like as heavily annotated as this. Yeah, the book is kind of worse for wear because I've had this for a long time, but also I got this like in 2021 at a Goodwill for like $2, I think, and ended up not reading until 2023. So yeah, literally almost 2 years later. But if you know this, if you've read this, you understand why this had to be the favorite series. Like, I can't pick a favorite book because the first book obviously is fantastic, but then the second book has Ronan's perspective. So yeah, and then the last book, and then the third book, like, I can't pick. But I'm just showing the first book now, but it's basically the entire series. So if you haven't read it, go read it right now. Like, I'm looking at it now and I kind of want to read it right now. Reread it, like, right now. It's so good. It's so good. I really, really, like, if I had read this in high school, I know that I would have based my entire personality on this book. Like, it's so good. Yeah, I don't have anything to say. Just go read it, scream about it with me, like, yeah. The Raven Boys, The Raven Cycle by Maggie C. Potter. My favorite book in May. I need to stop doing this. Okay, anyways. Book 6. Yes, book 6, which is my favorite book from June. In June, I read 17 books. Wow, what was happening there? I don't know. Anyways. And I was on a trip. Okay, maybe that had something to do with reading more. But yeah, in June, I ended up reading 17 books. And my favorite book out of all of them was this series. I mean, even here, I haven't written a favorite book, like one book. It's the entire series, but Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, the entire series by MXTX. Wow. Changed my life. Like, I did not know what I was missing out on. This was my first Danme book. My first book. Like, I don't know what the actual, like, it is Danme, but like, even just like the broader genre, I don't know what to call it. I don't know what it's called. But yeah, these kind of books, my first one. And literally, I'm obsessed. Yeah, I love MXTX books now. Like, I read their other series, The Scum Villains Self-Saving System. I'm still on the 4th book, but I'm taking my time with it because they're all just, extra chapters. But yeah, this one is still my favorite. So freaking good. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. Second book made me cry. Like, that story, the side plot, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. Like, it's just so good. It's just so good. And like, literally feels like I am like watching some show. Like, it's so well described and like, it's just so fun. Like, I don't even know. Just the entire thing is so fun and so... I just keep using all these adjectives that don't really describe what the book is about and just saying, go read it because it's fun or it's interesting or like whatever. But I don't know how to describe it. Just, yeah. It's just so good. And there's like beautiful artwork. Hold on. Okay, this is kind of scary. Hold on. Yeah, like beautiful artwork in it and like the romance and like, I don't know, the quests and like just these two characters. I mean, Wei Wuxian, like you just gotta read it. Anyways, go read this. Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation. Yeah, it's so good. Favorite book favorite series from June of 2023. I guess because I ended up reading so many books in May and June, a slump was bound to come, and that came in July. I ended up reading 6 books, which is still a lot, but like for me, that's not a lot. And I just remember how much I was struggling to finish some books. So yeah, that's what happened. But I did have a favorite, and like it's not like I just picked the best one out of the ones I read. Like this was actually a favorite. So that's exciting. Anyways, in July I read a total of 6 books, and my favorite book was Imogen, obviously, by Becky Albertalli. This was so cute, and like, I mean, not just cute, like there was a lot of things that frustrated me and made me angry, but that was just because of some characters. But I really, really enjoyed this. For me, I think I just related to a lot in this, like, and just felt nostalgia, I guess, because, you know, college setting and like the, you know, figuring out who you are and like coming out and like, you know, I literally don't even know how to describe it, and like I don't remember how I described this when I was reading, like when I reviewed it on Instagram and stuff, but I remembered loving it. I do remember that I really loved it and really enjoyed it and felt very emotional while reading it and just related to it a lot, and like, yeah, I don't know. It was just really good. So this was my favorite book in July 2023, Imogen, obviously, by Becky Albertalli. In August, I ended up reading a total of 13 books, and my favorite book was Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. This was so fun and so good. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just, first of all, any STEM book is immediately a plus for me. Like, for me, every Ali Hazelwood book has been so good just because I could relate to it so much. Just, you know, the STEM world, and like MCAT was discussed in the second book, Love on the Brain, and this one was about, you know, the academics and the world of academia and like how hard it is and how, you know, isolating it is, and like just all of those things. Obviously I couldn't relate that much to this one because I never ended up getting to the academia level, but for me the STEM one and the MCAT one was more relatable, obviously. But anyways, I loved this one. I loved the characters. I loved just the whole debate about STEM and like, you know, the world of academia. I guess I loved seeing that side of it and like learning more about it, but also just like, you know, the other romance side of it I loved, and like seeing, you know, I don't know, just the different tropes, I guess, was really fun and nice to see. And like I liked that there was like the conflict was valid and stuff, and like I liked, trying to remember, but like from what I remember, I think the female main character was like a people pleaser, but like to the extremes or something, and like she would like actively fit herself to be what she thought the other people wanted. Like she would analyze them and then make herself be what they wanted and stuff. And I just like, obviously it's not to that extreme for most people, but I feel like everyone does that to some extent. And so it was really interesting to see, to read about that. I think one of the other reasons I love this the most, love this a lot, was because right after this one I read another book, and the female main character in that was also a people pleaser to the extreme and like all that. But like, because I did not enjoy that one, and that one was very stilted and I didn't feel much in that, but because the female main characters were kind of similar in that aspect, I kept comparing the two and ended up loving this one more because of how I compared it to the other book. So yeah. Don't know if that makes sense, but anyways, my favorite book of August 2023 was Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. Really recommend it. If you have enjoyed any books by Ali Hazelwood, I'm pretty sure you will love this one as well. Yeah, I've read everything by her. I haven't read the young adult one that just came out. I think it's called Checkmate or Check and Mate or something like that. I know there's chess on the cover or something. Anyways, I've read her series, this love series, and then also the novella series that came out last year, I think. Yeah, enjoyed all of them. So if you have enjoyed any books by Ali Hazelwood, I'm pretty sure you will enjoy it. So go check it out. Yeah. Okay. So moving on to September. In September, I ended up reading 13 books, and I had so many, I'm literally looking at the list, and I had so many good reads, but how to pick one? I mean, it wasn't that hard, to be honest, because this book literally was my entire life in September and October till I got the second book in my hands. But you probably know what I'm talking about. Maybe. If you've seen any of my other videos in the last 2 months, you probably know what I'm talking about. But my favorite book of September 2023 was Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong. Yeah. I've talked about this book so many times in my other vlogs, on Instagram, etc., that I feel like there's not much else to say, but go read it. Go read These Violent Delights series, duology, and then go read this, because wow. Literally, wow. So freaking good. Yeah. A spy and an assassin in 1930s or 1930s, and they have to act like they're married to each other. That should be reason enough for you to go read this. But obviously read the first two books in the duology, These Violent Delights, first. Otherwise you're ruining everything for yourself. Yeah, so These Violent Delights, Our Violent Ends, Foul Lady Fortune, the novella Last Violent Call, and then last book, Foul Heart Huntsman. Go read them. If you like fantasy, if you like fantasy, if you like, gangs and I don't even know, it's just so good, found family, and there's just so much. Oh yeah, and one of them is Immortal. Let me not forget that. But I already want to reread this. So freaking good. So freaking good. Please go read this. I'm telling you, if you haven't read any books by Chloe Gong, if you haven't started These Violent Delights, you are missing out. You are missing out big time. Big time. And do not read this before you read those books, because you are literally ruining everything for yourself. I am not even joking. The second book in the series, Foul Heart Huntsman, is going to be so much better if you read it in order. So please just do that. Yeah. Anyways, go read this. It is fantastic. So good. Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong. My favorite book of September 2023. Okay, October, I read a total of 7 books, and this was a surprise. This one was a surprise. I did not think this would be as good, that it would change my life, but it did. So, anyways, my favorite book of October 2023, Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. Wow, I have not read a fantasy like this ever. Ever. Like, first of all, it's a fantasy about books and libraries, but there's like sorcerers, obviously, and like magisters and like things happening, and she can speak to books, and like it's just so good. And there's demons, and they're your slaves, and like I don't even know how to like, I'm explaining it very, very badly, but it's so freaking good. And it's a standalone, so you don't even have to read like 3 books to get to the end of the story. I mean, I hate that because I want 10 more books on this series, but some people might enjoy that it's just 1 book. But yeah, go read it. It is fantastic. It is fantastic. And like, just the banter is so good, and like yeah, and there's nicknames. It's so good. I mean, okay, it's not just 1 book. Like, it is 1 book, but there's like a novella series, or like, no, just 1 novella on this that I haven't gotten my hands on yet. So I don't know if there will be more books after, but the story did end in this. And I think those are just like extras, like just giving us some fun, snippets back into the world, which I'm really excited to read, but they don't have it here in India. So I'm waiting to find it somewhere in a bookstore soon, hopefully. But yeah, my favorite book of October 2023, Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. Highly recommend. If you like books, if you like fantasy, this is your guy. I've had this for almost 2 years, I think. And I don't know why I didn't pick it up earlier, but I regret it a lot. So yeah. Okay. November, I don't think I read a lot of books. I think, yep, November I ended up reading 3 books, back in my slump. Yeah, and like, for me in this case, like, it was like none of them were like a favorite, but like if I had to pick one, it would be None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. This was insane. Like, I still think about it and get scared, and literally it's like, even in the end, like, you don't know what happened, you don't know what actually happened, like, you don't know who did what, like, what was real, what was a lie. Like, it's that kind. It's like a psychological thriller. Yeah, insane. Like, really good though. Like, I could not read this at night. I had to read it in the day, which is why this took me like all month almost to read it. I know. Yeah, so I started it around like 3rd or 4th of November and ended up finishing it on 29th. So it took me almost the entire month to read because I kept getting scared and pushing it off. And also just like some of the stuff in this book, scary. But yeah, anyways, it's basically about this woman who is a podcaster, and then this other woman who is born on the same day in the same hospital and everything, and like they accidentally run into each other on their 40-something birthday at a restaurant, and so then they start a new podcast series together, and like it just gets crazier and crazier as like the other woman like starts sharing her story, and like things start happening, I guess. But yeah, I read this for my book club, and wow, so insane, so twisted. but so good, like very addicting. Very, very good though. Highly recommend if you are in the mood for a twisted psychological thriller. But yeah, this was my favorite book of November 2023. November 2023. Okay, last month, December, aka birthday month, I read 4 books in total. The last 10 days I was on a trip, so didn't read a lot. I didn't read at all when I was there. I read like maybe 10 pages, and then on the flight back I ended up reading like half of Yellowface, and then finished it in January, so doesn't count. But in December, before leaving, I ended up reading 4 books in total. And again, in this case also, like there was no like actual favorite book of December. Like they were all pretty average, 3.54 stars. Like it's not average. I tend to rate books higher than what I feel, I guess. But like if I had to pick a favorite, it would be Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid. This book I've had since 2020. 3 years almost. I remember like getting this in like November or December of 2020, and I read it in December 2023. So I finally made myself read it, and so good, so kind of insane again. And like I remember everyone was talking about this in 2020, so that's why I ended up reading it, buying it back then, but didn't end up picking it up until now. But still really good, like really, like basically it's about this girl, Amira. I'm pretty sure her name was Amira. Hold on. Yeah. So this girl, it's basically about this girl, Amira, who is a babysitter for, she's black, and she's a babysitter for this famous white women's children. And so one night she is, at a grocery store with the child, and somebody calls the cops on her thinking that she stole the child. And just, starts off with like a lot of things that happen, and like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like that's like basically the first chapter is, the grocery store scene, and then a lot of things, spiral up and happen. And yeah, I read this while listening to the audiobook, and I really enjoyed the audiobook as well, so I would highly recommend it. But yeah, really good. Oh, as you can see, that's the child, that's Amira, and the cop. So yeah, favorite book of December 2023 was Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid. Highly recommend. So in total, these are some of the books that I loved in 2023, plus all the ones that I don't have physical copies of. But wow, this is heavy. So that's it for this video. Those were all the books that I loved reading in 2023. I'm looking forward to seeing which books I love in 2024. So keep an eye out for that next year. I hope you're all having a great start of the year, and hope 2024 is even better than 2023 for all of you. Yeah. See you guys next time.